Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. I have been working for a while to put together this interview. I'm really excited to sit down with my friend Sergio and have a discussion about his infinite banking journey, and I hope that you enjoy. All right, Sergio, I said it true. It has been a little while. We've been trying to align our schedules. I've very much been looking forward to this conversation. We had a great phone call a little while back. I mean, we're both leading busy lives, business, family. We were just talking about some of those things.
Yeah.
But if you would, do this because we've got to meet each other because of infinite banking.
Right.
We're operating professionally in the same space as how we got to know each other and mutual friends, of course, that we have. But if you would just paint a picture of your background. I don't think I said first and last name, but Sergio Loaiza, married, children, just paint the background picture however you want. But I want to talk about infinite banking and how it came to you or you came to it, of course.
Of course, brother. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm excited just to chat and just have an awesome conversation. But yeah, my background, I'm originally from Colombia, South America. So my first language is Spanish. English is my second language. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit on the back end of the call. But yeah, I'm a family man. I have obviously a beautiful wife. I have a 3-year-old boy and then a 1-year-old boy. And yeah, it's been a fun journey. I live in I currently live in the States, so I think we're kind of neighbors. We're pretty close. I'm in South Carolina. You're technically in North Carolina, correct?
That's right. Oh, not technically. I am clearly, I am exclusively, I am natively. Yes, big distinction. Big. I'm literally on top of you.
You're pretty close to the border, aren't you?
I am. I am right up against the border.
You're right up against it. So maybe you can just jump the line whenever you're ready. But yeah, man. So I'm a family man. Beautiful family, super blessed there. And yeah, my background's originally from Colombia. Moved here, immigrated from Colombia with my family when I was 5 years old. I've got an older brother who's 2 years older than me. His name is Carlos. We're business partners in a lot of the things that we do, and yeah, it's been a fun journey. I've got a background in a lot of different things. I've been an entrepreneur, or I guess what I would say in entrepreneurial income since 2015 officially, but I've been an entrepreneur pretty much all my kind of adult working life. Have tons of job experience in the past and other things, and we can tap into those things if they're necessary. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and my background. But now I am fully devoting my craft and kind of my life, what I would call my legacy years, into my brand of right here, which is protect your legacy. And yeah, that's kind of what I am excited about is taking everything I've learned over my short years, because I'm not too old, but I am getting close to that 40-year mark. So I've got a little bit of wisdom, and yeah, taking everything I've learned in all my careers, and then bringing it all together under one umbrella, which is now called Protect My Legacy, which is all about family, faith, freedom, finances, aka infinite banking, in kind of infused into all that. So yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, well, I've got tons of questions. You say whatever all that you want, but I'll go ahead and clarify. If you're still anticipating 40 years old, I've already celebrated it, so I guess that makes me your elder. Okay, so I might have to leverage that maybe at some point in the conversation if I deem it necessary. Um, Very cool. So I am interested in the background. I like having that picture. So how long have you been married?
Yeah, so we've been married. We're actually coming up on 6 years, which we're going to take a really fun anniversary coming up, which is exciting. So we're really excited about that.
I love it.
And yeah, so we're coming up on 6 years of marriage, and obviously the two little boys.
Yeah, we'll keep celebrating it big. I love celebrating anniversaries, maybe especially with going places. So I'll be your biggest fan there. And I have got to meet your wife. We had supper a while back down in your town, actually,
Yep.
Greenville, South Carolina. Got to meet her. That was awesome. So when it came to 2015, I mean, you say your full adult life basically, but 2015 is actually when I stepped into entrepreneurship from a
Okay.
W 2 background. So that intrigues me. And I
Awesome.
recollect that now from our prior conversation. So, as broadly as you like, as specifically as you would like, tell folks a little bit about what that looked like, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no. Of course, this is actually a really fun part of my story, just because I went to college to play soccer. I studied tons of different things. I was excited and interested in a lot of different things, but I went to college specifically to play soccer. There, I studied marketing, psychology, and business. So, kind of that's those were my three focus, and I ended up graduating with basically a psychology degree and actually a criminal justice degree because I thought I was going to go into law enforcement and do something in that space. I was always fascinated with it. Ended up not going down that route just because I got a really amazing marketing job right out of college. And so I was able to get a marketing job traveling all over the US for Verizon Wireless, and we were doing events like Super Bowls, IndyCar races, X Games. We were doing concerts all over the U.S., like really big concerts. We were doing these just really big festivals, and my job was to just travel around and and kind of be like the face of Verizon Wireless with my team. And so through that experience, I got a chance to just learn a lot. I got a chance to learn a lot about communication, presenting myself, because I actually worked my way up from kind of just working with Verizon to kind of being an MC. And I started hosting these events where I became kind of a host at Super Bowl events, a host at IndyCar races and whatnot. So that was a super fun experience. And that was kind of my transition from college into the working world. And I did that for a couple of years, a handful of years, and I absolutely loved it. But no matter what, I love the travel, I love the pay, I love what I was doing. It was still a job. And for me, nothing against job and nothing against a W-2 income, but for me, I just always knew I wanted to create something for myself as an entrepreneur. My family was pretty entrepreneurial. Some of my family owns restaurants. My dad owns a taxi business that he runs. My mom runs her own like embroidery shop and scrubs uniforms business. So my family's always been super entrepreneurial. Of course, they've always had jobs as well, but once they finally figured out their niche, they went the entrepreneurial route. And so I always had that kind of in me. And after my experience with the marketing stuff, even though it was super fun, I knew I wanted to start something kind of on my own, maybe even potentially with my brother. We always did stuff together. We're best friends. We have an amazing relationship, which is it's a blessing. And so, long story short, we were at a marketing event. It was actually a motocross event where they did like it's called kind of like I can't remember the exact name, but they did surfing, motocross, and then another thing in between. The athletes competed in three different things, and it was a super cool event. We were doing the marketing for him, and there was this one kid flying a drone, and he was 19 years old. This was in 2013. And he was the first time I'd ever seen a drone. And I was like, we were like, what is that thing? The kids flying over the racers, and we're like, we were just intrigued because we were there doing the marketing. And my brother had a conversation with the kid, and he was like, it's a drone, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, long story short, we were just like, wow, that's really cool. We need to look into that. So we looked into it. About 2 weeks later, we purchased a drone. My brother purchased a GoPro. We set up the drone and the GoPro together, and we just started testing to see what we could do to see if we could get anything close to what that kid was doing. And the next step to that was like, whoa, this is really fun. This is super cool. Maybe we can take our marketing experience and turn it into like drone production experience. And that's exactly what we did. I started my first company in 2015 with my brother called Pro Bros Productions. That business is still up and running, and we love it. And we've been doing kind of what we call aerial cinematography for companies and businesses, whether it's real estate, cities. A lot of cities used to hire us to do a lot of marketing for like tourism. Like when Greenville, South Carolina blew up, aka Visit Greenville, we were actually some of the first people they hired to do marketing, which is a blessing because we got a bunch of aerial content of Greenville, South Carolina and whatnot. So that was my journey into kind of entrepreneurship. And from there, I've done multiple other things just because, I learned early that if I really wanted to control my time, my freedom, my income, what I do with my family, I needed to create something for myself. Not that you can't have it in other arenas, just at the level that I wanted it. I needed to own something of my own to give me the time freedom and the control. And so, yeah, I've started multiple other businesses in kind of what do you call the marketing world? Whether it's a network marketing, whether it's affiliate marketing, there's so many different types of marketing. Experiential marketing was what I started doing. Then we went into network marketing, then affiliate marketing kind of at the same time. And yeah, I've been doing that for multiple years. But even with all that said, I was looking for, okay, what's my like next passion project? Like what is like going to be my legacy business? And that's always been a word for me. And legacy has been a huge word for me. And so I had been thinking over the past 3 years or so, like, hey, all right, Pro Bros Productions is awesome. It's a fun business, but it requires a lot of my time. What's something that I could potentially build that I can still be an entrepreneur? I can use everything I've learned, but I can maybe potentially do from home and still educate, still talk about leadership, still talk about family, my faith, finances. How can I embody everything into one mission? And to be honest, that's pretty hard to do. To find a brand that embodies everything you're about is really hard. So for me, a big thing is my faith. So I just, I was praying and I got in my what I call my prayer closet, and I was kind of just praying, all right, Lord, what's my next step? What do I need to do next? And I started kind of writing my thoughts down in my prayers. And that's when I kind of just got this idea of something called protect. I was like, what, protect your legacy? I was like, I don't really know what that means, but I was like, maybe it has to do with like income and finances because I was very intrigued with kind of that space as well. And yeah, that's when I kind of fell into the idea of infinite banking and doing what we do now in the whole life insurance space. And all of it kind of just came together at the right place. So now I still have other those businesses and I still operate them and I touch them here and there. But now I'm focused on what I would call our legacy business for me and my wife and our family, which is Protect Your Legacy is the name of the company, and it embodies 7 F's. We talk about faith, we talk about family, we talk about finances, we talk about fitness, we talk about fun, and we talk about freedom. And so I think I said them all. I can't remember if I just said them all. I think that was 7. But ultimately, it's just everything that we stand for, that we live our lives for. How do we bring it under one umbrella that we can then teach other people that have those same life rhythms to want to be a part of our mission? So that's kind of where we're at. And the finances part of it and the infinite banking part of things is a huge piece of that puzzle.
Okay, I got tons of questions.
Yeah,
I
I know
do
that. I know
gotta.
that was a lot. That was like,
I
down.
love it. I do have tons of questions. All right, but all right, so nail this down with me because a lot of this was familiar to me, of course. But run through these foundational principles in your particular legacy spectrum. I guess so. Faith, family, your finances, fitness, fun, freedom. I missed one.
Yeah. So I think I have them all. So you got faith, family, fitness, finances, fun, freedom, and then the last one that we're really both me and my wife are really passionate about is fashion. And so there's all this in there too because we feel, I mean, people, why would you add fashion in there? Well, for me, fashion is a brand. Like when people see what you wear, how you present yourself, it automatically should speak for itself. So one of the reasons that I created the brand and kind of named it as I was thinking and praying about everything, Protect Your Legacy, is because not only is that means something to everybody, but that was something that I could create a cool design around it. I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but you can maybe see my shirt fully. But it's like, that for me, I wanted to create something that was fashionable that I could wear that people could ask me, like, wait, what is that? And you'd be surprised how many times I just go out and about and people see the kind of the cross. They're like, hey, is that a faith thing? It's protect. What is it? What is it about? So it just starts a conversation where I could either add value to the individual I'm talking about, whether it's about finances, whether it's about fitness, whether it's about faith, whether it's whatever they want to talk about, because there's so many pillars that we love, but that one of the F's of the 7 F's is fashion. So yeah, it's huge. So that's kind of that was the 7 that the last one that you were missing because I forgot to mention it was actually fashion.
I think that one's neat though, just because, and people feel, some people will hear this part of the conversation and they're really into it. Fashion, apparel, messaging behind it. Other people, they're not going to care. They're going to zone out for a couple of seconds here. Here's what I think is really interesting is that people will get downright furious and territorial over this sports team, this company, and that's not their family. That's not their passion. That's not their, or it is their passion, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, we'll go to bat for somebody else's brand rather than maybe think about our own. And I think it's terribly interesting. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, and that's the idea behind it is that, I mean, how many times as athletes, I mean, I'm an athlete. I grew up, playing collegiate soccer and whatnot. Thought that's what I thought I was going to do professionally. But you think about how many times we wear other people's last names versus our own. And so, the idea behind the fashion part of Protect Your Legacy is that you like somebody like yourself, somebody like another friend of mine that maybe has nothing to do with what I'm doing, could see the shirt, the sweater, the hoodie and like it, and when they put it on, it takes a completely different meaning to them than it is to me. Because now they're wearing their legacy, meaning protect their legacy. If somebody asks them, what is it? Well, hey, it's my buddy's brand, it's this and that. But protect your legacy to me is this. And that's what was unique about the idea is that I wanted something that people could wear when it comes to the fashion part. And I'm really excited about this. I've always been excited. So is my wife. Like we do modeling on the side and other things like that as well. So it's like, how do we bring everything we love into one thing? So it's like if you put it on and I ask you, Jesse, hey, what does protect your legacy mean to you? I could sit here for hours just listening. And I would love nothing more than to ask you that question and be like, what is it? Right. And I think that's what's cool and unique about the idea when it's like, you know what? It's just an instant conversation starter.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you said what you did about you and your wife and modeling and everything, because I thought earlier when you're describing about being the face of companies when you're, marketing for them and everything, I'm like, yeah, you've got the literal money maker. So good for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. So
Yeah. All right. So I love that you and your brother are business partners. Y'all have got a great relationship. I can remember working some hot summers, bouncing general ideas off of each other between me and my brothers about, well, we'll do this and we'll do that. And, my trajectory actually was to be in criminal justice for a while. So I find that interesting. Yep. I was a cop here in North Carolina for a few years,
so
several
we got a
years.
lot more in common than I thought. I knew we had a lot in common already, but even more. That's cool.
See, that's why I knew I wanted to have more conversation with you, just from what I did remember from us meeting and talking the couple of times that we have.
That's cool.
Yeah, network marketing background. I've got some years there, and yeah. Well, so you were obviously a kind of guy that was interested in lots of things. You were active in sports, but even when it came to the academics, you talked about psychology. You talked about the marketing, business, criminal justice. Now, those are so different. Those trajectories are so different. Set hours. I mean, you've got a set shift. You're on a set crew typically. I mean, law enforcement has different faces, but you ended up going this complete other direction, which I think is just totally fascinating, especially with the broad background that you have. So tell me this: what did you pick up along the way before infinite banking about general personal finance? Like, what would you have said would have been the top couple of foundational pieces, such as they were before infinite banking? Oh, Jesse, I did this, or I thought that, or
That's a very simple question for me to answer, just because I've thought about it so many times and I've had to ask that question to me in different settings before. And so prior to infinite banking, there is one point in my life that radically changed everything for me in the financial space. But even prior to that, I think it was more so what I learned from my family and my parents. And it was just like, hey, it's kind of like you just live your life, you do your best, you make as much money as you can, and you have fun experiences, and you just kind of like I would have to say I learned this from my dad. My dad was just so good at creating experiences for us. We weren't super wealthy. We weren't like we were barely middle class, right? And they worked so hard, but they always created amazing experiences for us. So for me, when it came to like finances and money, it always seemed like my parents just somehow figured it out. I never knew that they were in debt. I never knew that all this type of stuff was happening behind the scenes. It was just almost like we never necessarily like wanted for stuff, which I'm super grateful because I know there's families that don't have that story. So that was kind of my first experience. But then I realized that, hey, maybe that's not what I was seeing on the surface wasn't necessarily everything that has to do with like proper stewardship. And I think that's whenever I like, becoming a college student, I started working at a really young age, kind of making my own money. Thankfully, I was able to do that. And so once I started kind of making my own money, I was like, I took what I learned from my family and I tried to add on top of it what I believe was better stewardship principles. And like I said, the simple answer to your question is this point in my life where I remember reading a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book completely changed the game for me because it talks about the four quadrants and the four different ways that people create income or bring income into their life. And if people don't know that book, I recommend they go and look at it because it's one of the most foundational money books that I've personally ever read because it just describes this quadrants of how you bring in income. You're either an employee, you're either a small business or self-employed. I kind of do it a little bit backwards and different than the book just because it makes more sense. But you're either an employee, top left corner, small business owner, or self-employed, bottom left corner. Bottom right corner for me is kind of like, hey, maybe you're a big business owner. Maybe you're like, hey, you own some type of business that produces income for you. And then the top right, where everybody wants to get, is, hey, I'm an investor. So on that right side, money's working for you. On that left side, you're trading your time for money. And so when I realized that, okay, I realized that you could be in multiple quadrants throughout your life. You could be in multiple quadrants at the same time. But where did I actually want to be? I wanted to be where the 98% of the world wasn't, where the 2% was on the right side, where money was making money for me because I valued freedom, I valued my time, and I valued quality experiences. But here's the thing, you can't get all that if you're chasing money. So there's this double-edged sword of like, okay, well, how do I stop chasing money? There's got to be better systems. And that's where I started learning and diving in even deeper into like the financial world of like, how can I create semi-passive or completely passive income? How do I learn how to steward my money better? And then you go into the principle of infinite banking, which we'll obviously talk about later, is how do I actually steward my money the best? And the concept that I came up with, like, I need to learn what do I do? What's the first thing I should do with my money? And I never knew it, to be honest. I thought I knew it even from Robert Kiyosaki and some of the other books, but I didn't know the actual best place to put your money until a couple of years ago, where I actually started learning about the idea of infinite banking, properly structured whole life policies that we'll potentially talk about. But that's kind of my journey when it comes to the money thing and kind of like the aha moment was Robert Kiyosaki's book. And then there's so many other books that I read along the way that I could mention. Obviously, one that I have right here, which is huge, and I'm sure you're very familiar with, is this one, right? Very familiar with this one. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And that one also changed the game for me. There's so many in between as well. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of like where my money mindset is.
It does. I got a question for my earlier question then, or two. So, what made you even pick up a book? Was it something that happened in life? Was it somebody?
Yeah, that's a deeper question. We can go into a whole nother story there. So what made me pick up a book was, and even get into the concept of personal development and personal education after school, was a personal experience in my life. I was always a very positive, optimistic, just overall um, person that had a really strong identity. I knew who I was. I knew what I was about. But I went through an experience in college where, ultimately, I went through an experience in college where for the first time ever, I kind of started questioning my identity and my worth. And I was just like, you know what? I grew up in a small town where being Colombian and being a little bit of darker skin, for lack of better words, it was just I was different, clearly, right? And not everybody there maybe accepted that fact that I was different. It wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily to say that, hey, there's a bunch of racist people in my town. No, that's not the case. People are just misunderstood things. Maybe they weren't educated or whatever it was. But there was experiences that happened throughout my kind of high school that when I went to college, I kind of forgot about them. But then when I was kind of about to start leaving college again, I started kind of remembering those experiences. I'm like, man, maybe I'm not as concrete in my identity as I thought I was. And so I kind of started questioning my identity a little bit and if I was worth who I thought I was and whatnot. And so long story short, in that arena, I actually just decided to be like, I need to look for personal help. And so I started digging in online the best I could. That was 2000 and kind of 2000, and it's pretty early into the self-development, personal development world. So one of the biggest names at that time was Tony Robbins. Really, before he went as the Anthony Robbins, but now it's Tony Robbins. He had a program that was called the Slight Edge, and it was all about personal development, personal growth. And so I actually, at I can't remember how old that was, but I'd have to do the math. But anyways, it was in 2007, 2008. I purchased about a program, online program that was almost like $500, which is a lot of money for me in college as a college student. And I invested $500 in myself to learn, grow, and develop. And so I downloaded that program and went through it, and it was like audiobooks, and I would just listen, and it was like it just started changing my mindset. And I fell in love with what I originally had fallen in love with in high school, which was psychology in the mind. I had always loved it. I'd always loved being able to help people with problems. And so, I was one of those guys that my family came to, my friends came to, that I was just like, hey, I was very grounded, so I was able to do that. And so I fell back into that space of like, whoa, like I can do this for myself. I just needed to find the right information. And so I dove in deep and I went into the rabbit hole of personal development through Tony Robbins. And yeah, the rest is history. I just kept going and kept going. Next thing you know, I've got, over 150, 200 audiobooks in my Audible account, year over year, just listening to as I'm working, driving, and things like that. So
All right, so that answers and it doesn't answer my question because I'm still sitting here thinking. I guess I'm surprised by your self awareness
yeah.
to notice something and then want to do something about it. But I guess that's just the influence of external things. Also, is it could make us become open minded in a new direction or.
It's a combination of everything. I mean, I had an awesome mentor in high school that was I wouldn't we it was before we were even using the word mentor, right? Now we use the word mentor. Back then you didn't people didn't use that word. He was my youth pastor. And so he was an amazing influence in my life. And so he planted so many awesome seeds that I knew that sometimes, I would go, obviously most of the time back then I'd go into the Bible and try to search for answers there. And for some reason, if I couldn't discern the words in the Bible, because sometimes it's pretty hard, especially as you're learning, I'd have to go somewhere else. So that was kind of the journey. I was okay, well, I've got something out of here, but I didn't get everything I was looking for. Maybe let me go look over here as well and try to learn. So I think you hit the nail right on the head. One of the biggest things I pride myself on until this day, and it's one of the things that if people know me, I pray that when my time has passed, that one of the words that people use about me is that he was one of the most self-aware people I've ever met. And I literally, that's something I try to do. I try to be very self-aware and just always what's happening around me, not just for me, but for other people, and how can I help? So I just took that same thing and did it for myself. So that you hit it right on the nail, which is like, it was self-awareness. It was just something that I really, really, really try to do at the best of my ability.
Okay. Well, that's cool. And maybe because I'm not so much of a self aware person, perhaps. I'm curious about myself. I confound myself maybe sometimes. So it's neat for me to hear your trajectory. So, one other word that you've also used when we've been talking about general finance, though, is stewardship.
Yeah,
Obviously, scripture is a filter for you, but maybe it's also one of those words, kind of like a mentor, that you might not have used all along in that codified way.
exactly.
It sounds like a codified way. So maybe could you say something about when did that happen? How did that happen? Where did that come from?
I mean, it's all by proximity, and I think you have to like, what are you listening to? Like, what's coming in through your ear gates? What is coming in through your eye gates? And those are the two of the most important gates in our life is our ears and our eyes. And so it's like your proximity. As I got around other individuals that were using that language, I started becoming more curious about that language. Like, what does it really mean? Because before I would, I I never use the word stewardship. That's a pretty like heavy word, not in a bad way, but it brings a lot of weight. I maybe use like just how did I manage my money, right? And so I think the difference is that like, hey, stewardship is maybe more biblical and it has a little bit more roots in faith, but it all comes down to the same thing: is how are you properly managing your finances, organizing your finances, and if you're not doing that, when it comes to my opinion now and what I've been learning is that I mean, if and there's so many, I'm not a Bible scholar, right? But it's like there's so many parables and there's so many stories in the Bible where it talks it's like, hey, how can God bless us with more if we can't even manage or steward what we already have? And I just started listening to podcasts and pastors, and I'll tell you what, this my secret weapon of unlocking information was a guy that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, but it's Miles Monroe. Dr. Miles Monroe. amazing, amazing pastor in my opinion, and he was just one of the best teachers I ever had. He wasn't my personal mentor and personal teacher, but what's really unique about the world that we live in right now is that if you find somebody that unlocks things in your brain in a positive way, in a good way that's in alignment with who you are, online, listen to them as much as you possibly can, because maybe that person was put, maybe that audio, that YouTube video was put there by God so that you could unlock what you're praying for. Because obviously it requires action. So for me, it was that I believe that I came across information from Miles Monroe at a really young age, probably about 8 years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago, that I just kept downloading his information and trying to understand his thought process. And that was probably one of the biggest places that I heard the word stewardship, because it's just simple. It's as simple as that. People are praying for all these things in their life. It's like you're praying for a new car, but the car you currently have, you don't keep it clean. You don't change the oil on it. You don't do all these things. And it's like ultimately it's like, how can you expect God to bless you with more when you're not even taking care of what you have? And I'm not preaching to people. Sometimes I'm talking to myself. It's just, being self-aware of that again. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity on that.
It does. Christian or non-Christian alike, what I think would make us, and I'll use that exact same language because this is for me too, things that I say, what could make us shirk away from stewardship is obviously an inherent sense of accountability. So whether people feel like they're accountable to God or even themselves, like if protecting your legacy is important for you, like if somebody's listening to you and they're saying, oh, well, I want to protect my legacy, well, then the stewardship could then just simply be, well, to yourself then and your heirs or your progeny, right?
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's 100% part of the mission, is that like, hey, well, how do we protect our legacy? What starts with us? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it starts with our mind. How do we protect our mind? How do we protect our body? How do we protect our spirit? How do we protect us, like the things that we were given, which the first thing we were given is our body. So it's like, there's just so many different ways you could take it, and everybody can choose kind of what direction is the prime thing they want to focus on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I love the language earlier as well. Eye gate, ear gate. It makes me think of Job. Yeah, Job, there's a verse that I really like Job. He says, I've made a covenant with mine eyes. Meaning he said, I'm going to control these eyes. I will look where I should look, won't look where I shouldn't look, and just, it's a small member, like the Bible would say, but it's important, and if we don't pay attention to it, then it'll just wander. So I love your intentionality. I
Yeah,
love.
it will drift. It will drift.
Mhm.
That's one of my favorite words, is that, man, I'll do everything I can to not just be a drifter in life.
Yeah, well, I definitely love your intentionality. Okay, well, I love hearing the books. I love hearing the names. I love hearing the background. So then make a segue for me. What did life look like when you were exposed to infinite banking? How did that happen? What was going on the home front? Married, kids? What, like, where are you at? Where are you at there? And then how did it happen? What did that look like?
Yeah, so it was really interesting because we had, recently married, and recently purchased a brand new home where we currently live now. And so we were in a season of life where like things were good, but things were also kind of a little bit uncertain because you had COVID. COVID had just happened. We had just purchased a new home. So that means that everything that I was stewarding up to that point, everything that I was managing my money wise, that I had saved up in my regular savings account and whatnot, I pretty much depleted it to be able to purchase the house that we purchased, put a down payment on the home, to buy some new equipment for my production business and whatnot. But we moved into our new home. We were about, I want to say like 4 months away from giving birth to my first little boy. So there's a lot of stuff happening in our life, a lot of transition, a lot of good transition, but also a lot of uncertainty because of COVID and things like that. And so, to kind of shorten that story up a little bit, we moved in and things were looking great. But once again, I had just like I had worked so hard over the past couple of years to be a good saver. to manage my money properly so that I could save so that when the opportunity came to buy a home, we would do it. But guess what happened? We bought that home and we're back to zero. And it's one of the things that I actually teach now. I actually have a graph that maybe eventually you'll probably see me share it on social media platforms and stuff. But it's like there's only three types of people, and we're either savers, which hopefully you are, but not very many people get to that point. Most people are in that second category, which are debtors, right? Most people are just debtors. They're just living paycheck to paycheck and using debt however they possibly can. But that third component that nobody knows about and talks about is the bankers. Like there's people out there that have mastered this idea of infinite banking because they have information that I didn't have. And so um I came across some videos as I was looking. I was in a position where honestly it was a little bit uncertain. It's kind of like I call it the roller coaster, and it's kind of like the down part of the roller coaster. I was like, man, I just liquidated all my savings. We just moved into this house. We're about to have a new baby boy. There's a lot of expenses coming my way, and boom, my biggest production contract that one of my biggest production contracts that I've ever had canceled out of nowhere right after COVID because people weren't doing marketing. So a very significant monthly income a very significant portion of our monthly income just disappeared overnight. So I was like, oh man, this isn't good. So what am I going to do? So I mean, I turned to only one of the things that I do because I'm a man of faith, and I started praying and asking God, all right, God, what are you trying to teach me here? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to learn? I started praying, and then I started kind of thinking. And here's the thing about me too: it's like, yeah, I'm a man of faith and I pray, but I also love to take action. So I was like, what can I do on my end? I'm going to go research and start looking, and I came across the idea of infinite banking. And what's unique about it is that it wasn't the first time I had seen it. I saw it I saw it in 2014 in a book that I had read before, but I wasn't able to connect the dots. So Tony Robbins wrote a book. I mean, I was huge fan and still am, a huge reader of Tony Robbins material. And he put out a book called Money Master the Game. And in chapter 5.6, I hope I'm quoting it right, but I'm pretty sure it's chapter 5.6. It's a massive book. There's a chapter where he talks about PPLI. Um, and it's basically PPLI, which is private placement of life insurance. And so he talks about this vehicle that the wealthy people use in order to store and deploy their money in the most efficient way possible. And I remember reading that book in 2014, but it went right over my head. I was like, this is for wealthy people. It sounds awesome. Yeah, because the book was amazing and it had all these different things, but there was like just parts of the book that like as a just an educated reader, you look at them like that's not for me. I mean, that's awesome. I love that wealthy people can do that, but I'm not there yet. So you kind of just skim over it and go over it. And so I remember reading that book, and then flash forward to when we just moved into the house in 2022. I saw a video that I'm like, it linked the dots. I'm like, wait, I've seen this before. And so I connected the dots. And then I kept going more deeper into infinite banking videos and the idea of becoming your own banker and using insurance properly structured insurance for this process. And then I thought about something else. I was like, wait, I remember also reading an article because when I first learned about it with Tony Robbins, I dug a little bit deeper into that concept, and I remember reading an article how wealthy people use life insurance to purchase their vehicles. And the video I was watching then was also talking about that. I'm like, I wonder if it was the same thing. So I just started connecting all these dots. And what's really cool is that I kept connecting all the dots to the point where I was like, wow, this is so interesting. Maybe this is exactly kind of what I was like praying for and what God presented to me because even though I had just lost that client and it was a significant amount of money, thankfully I had another business that I was also going to pay me a significant end of year bonus. And so I had to do something really smart with that money. The money that I was going to get, I could no longer just put it into the bank. And I wasn't like knowledgeable about investing. I wasn't necessarily studying investing in stocks. So I was like, can't do that. And so when I was going to receive this big lump sum as the end of year bonus, I didn't want to just put it back into my bank account. And I definitely didn't want to just pay off the debt that we acquired when moving into our home. Because even though we had cash saved up, we still acquired a little bit of debt, furniture, just doing things. When you move into a home, it piles up no matter what. The lifestyle creep is real. right? And so I think that's the term that people use, but it's a very real thing. And as a husband, you want to please your wife, and you do everything you can to provide, and you want to, like, it's almost hard to say no. And so, anyways, we had acquired a little bit of not so good debt. So that was the secret to my kind of like my prayer and my seeking was like, this is the question I asked that changed it all for me. There's got to be a better way to leverage this money that I'm about to bring in. I can't just put it in the bank, and I can't just pay off the debt. There's got to be something I'm missing. And as I was studying and looking, infinite banking popped up. I dug deeper. I'm like, wow, this might be the most efficient way to deploy your money, to not only save it, store it, spend it, deploy it, leverage it, whatever word you want to use. I was like, if I put my money first into infinite banking and it's properly structured, then why couldn't I just leverage it, pay off the debt, eliminate the debt? Basically, like I became the lender, because the only way to get rid of this debt is maybe to do a SoFi loan or another loan or things like that, and hopefully get a lower interest rate and pay off the debt. There were strategies I could use, leverage other places, but this was the most efficient way that also benefited me and protected my legacy. And so that's when it all started kind of clicking together. I'm like, wait, I've got to go deep dive into this stuff and learn as much as I possibly can about it. And that's exactly what I did.
Mm. It's a big dilemma, and it's really interesting to hear you go through that, because I'm sitting here thinking, I hope that that's the case, that if people haven't had that kind of a crux moment, that they will, because when you think about, yeah, what can I do with money? What have I done with money? What can I do with money that could be different moving forward? Because what you had done in the past was been a good saver. That's awesome. And like you said, that's not most people. So that's a great place to start, is just begin saving. Don't spend all that you earn, begin saving. But even then, to see that big move of saving up a chunk get liquidated, you know what kind of work went into that. You know what kind of effort went into that, time went into that. And for a good thing, great thing, new house, all this stuff. But it clicked for you. It's like, I got what I wanted, but the money's gone. And then okay, then we know what debt is like. Okay, well, now we've got that. We're making payments on stuff or whatever. So I just love hearing all about that. I mean, at the end of the day, what can we do with money? We can save it once we've earned it, okay? We can spend it, but that key point of leverage it, and that's a step beyond just being, say, more creative or leveling up conventional finance, because somebody might say, oh yeah, well, I'll consolidate, get a lower interest rate instead of having several things over here. But see, that might actually mathematically be better, but number one, it definitely doesn't address the human problems of the spending that got us there in the first place. And then you're not doing any leveraging. So it might actually be a mathematical better step, and we could be a bit more efficient, and that's great. But could it be better? And then yes, it is. Okay, so here's what I'd like to know. If you could recall, what went through your mind as you were being exposed to this concept, and it's actually starting to take some root in you. What, from what you saw on the interwebs, did you love? What did you question? What did you have to work through? What was anything that maybe you saw or heard along the way that you later found out that part wasn't true, or how that person said it wasn't true? Like, what do you remember from that?
That's a great question. And I mean, obviously there's a lot, but I think that some of the biggest things were for me specifically is that I had been kind of primed for the information that I was now receiving. I had seen it before, I just didn't understand it. And so what I was starting to realize, okay, I don't know what I don't know. So I've always been an optimistic person. One of my favorite things to say is that you can't, somebody shouldn't put it, I'll say it this way, I'll say it different for the first time. Somebody shouldn't be able to convince you to do something you don't want to do. Now, if somebody can convince you to do something you don't want to do, then there's a problem. So for me, it was just like, it wasn't like, oh, this is a scam. Somebody's gonna get me into doing something. No, I just need to get the information, because I know that deep down in my heart, nobody can convince me to do something I don't want to do, because I'm very grounded and I make good decisions. Now, can somebody try to pull one over me, maybe, but the idea was that that was it. It was just like I was just had that confidence. I just need to get the proper information from the proper people that I trust and get as much information as I can so that I can make an educated decision on whether this can actually benefit me and my family for generations. And so I did that. So I mean, I think the biggest thing that I saw was just unlocking different elements of like, wait, so how is it possible that I can put my money into this so-called account or this place and still take money out, borrow it, but the original money I put in will continue to grow. Those like technical type things, they didn't click right away, and I don't think they click for most people because most people don't understand the insurance product. They don't understand that when you have a death benefit attached to something, you can leverage this massive payout that will eventually come and it's guaranteed to come your way. So those are more technical things. So that just took time. But on the surface level, it was literally just as simple of lack of information and not knowing what I didn't know. So it was more just peeling back the onions and being willing to do the work. Because I think that's where people fall short. They're not willing to get educated. They want a simple fix for everything, and it's like, if it was as simple as people make it seem, then everybody would be doing it. But it's not. It takes time. It takes education. It takes learning. It takes willingness. So there's those kind of those type of things.
Okay. Yeah, the saying that Jesus had of, well, the poor you'll have with you always comes to mind, right? Like people are going to do what people are going to do. For the people that are ready to learn about something, okay, we can make progress because you actually want to. I think desire is that first step. So here's my question, maybe then, particularly around the book. How soon was it that you got into the book, and then what did you think of the book? And I mentioned the book for a couple of reasons. One, because I like knowing what goes through people's minds when they're first getting into it, but also speaking on that patience point that you made me feel like you were bringing up. The book is actually a workbook for a 10-hour seminar that Nelson gave when he was alive. So, like when it comes to, and you've been to events, I've been to events, that there are events that companies and groups and programs will put on, and these are multi-day events. Tony Robbins, he'll put on events, right? It's those kinds of people that are willing to go and spend intentional time, put some money behind learning, that are going to really understand things for themselves and then be able to implement at a high level. But yeah, I did want to say that real quick about, I want to laugh when people are, oh, but I got to read a book. Jesse, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's so thin. It's such a quick read, and it actually is a workbook for a 10-hour seminar. Are you serious about protecting your legacy or not? Right. So when did you get a hold of the book? What did you think of the book? What did you like from the book? What did you not understand right away from the book that you can recall?
Yeah. And so I think the first thing that I'll say to kind of add to what you just said at the end is you're exactly right. And I say it this way, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear, right? Or say God will open the door, but he won't push you through it. Another way of kind of saying that, right? And so for me, that was the stage I was in. God was opening doors, but he wasn't going to push me through it. It was my job to read the book. It was my job to watch the video. God was presenting me with potential mentors and coaches, but it was my job to be ready to learn. And so I think that was huge. But once I started diving more and more into videos and videos and videos, I did the whole personal YouTube education for months. Like once I saw one video that really intrigued me, I just went down the rabbit hole and I was watching videos and videos and videos and I was so fascinated with it. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been missing in my financial strategy. There's other things that I know and I've learned from all the books that I've read, but this one piece of the puzzle, which might be, in my opinion now, one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, I was missing it until now. And so I was just super grateful I found it. So as I started going more into that, I then obviously came across our buddies that we're connected to now, the banking bros, and happens to be that we're in the same town. We're all super connected. And actually, that was the first time that somebody recommended the book. Was my buddy, obviously, as you know, Jeremiah recommended the book, and I had already done so much in the infinite banking space that when I read the book, I was like, awesome. All this just makes a lot of sense together now. This is one of the best psychological ways I've ever seen it put together. Because one thing that Nelson does phenomenally in the book is tell a lot of cool stories. And he's just like, he's just like this grandfather figure and I love the stories that he told. So I think for me, as I was reading the book, I really connected with all the psychology of the book, because there was a lot of psychology in the book. And like I said, it was my minor. I almost majored it, and I also absolutely love psychology. And I think one of the biggest principles that he talks about, that just the aha moment, is that whether we know it or not, everything that we pay for, we finance. And I was like, okay, what does he mean by that? Like, whether we know, like, that's not exactly how he said it, but that's kind of the way I tell people now. It's like, whether you know it or not, everything you pay for in life, you finance, because you lose out on the opportunity cost. And so I started digging into the idea, what's this? How do I break down? What is opportunity cost? What does it really mean? That means if I pay cash for something, I lose out on the opportunity of that cash ever earning something in future, especially compounding. Or if I pay credit cards, but I use credit from somebody else's bank or somebody else's system, then technically I'm paying interest to them. Versus if I somehow can get a system that I'm in charge of, that belongs to me, that's in within my legacy, and start leveraging that system, maybe now that opportunity cost comes back to me. Maybe now that interest can somehow come to me. And so as I started learning that, that was a huge aha moment. I think the biggest thing that I had to kind of really understand, especially about the book, this is a little bit more technical, but it's the idea of like, wait, I can borrow money from myself and I never have to pay it back. And Nelson talked a lot about, but you want to pay it back. You want to be a good banker. And for me, it was just like, okay, well, the way that I think, I'm very strategic. I was like, okay, well, I don't have to pay it back. So I'm in control. This is where it's really, really important to understand your vehicle and understand you as a person and understand your tendencies. Because if you don't understand your tendencies and you borrow a bunch of money and you don't pay it back properly, or you don't ever pay it back, I mean, it depends. It could potentially hurt you. I don't know. It just depends on everybody's strategy. But that for me was kind of like, okay, why would he say that? Like, you have to or you don't. And I was thinking through those lenses. That took me a little bit to understand, but now I understand it. It's just like you're a bank. If you borrowed money from a banker and whatnot, would you not have to pay it back? Of course you did. And when you pay it back, well, guess what? Now you have the money available to use it again. And if you use the money for good and you leverage it properly, and you're creating spreads and you're investing it or doing whatever, you always come out on top. But if you take the money and you go squander it and you waste it, you're in a worse spot than you started before you even borrowed the money. And so that's where it's really important for me to that was really important for me to understand. And that was probably one of the biggest pieces of the puzzles. On the good side was the opportunity cost, and on the other side was like, well, what does this mean, borrow from yourself? What is, like, let me dive into that a little bit deeper. I wanted to understand that at a deeper level.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then what happened after you have all these revelations and you start getting answers to these questions? What else took place, or what did it look like for you to decide, okay, I'm going to do this though. I'm going to implement this concept into my personal life.
Well, that was the first step. I'm a pretty kind of just straightforward person. So when I saw the concept and I gathered all the information that I needed, not only did I personally, me personally, not only did I say, you know what, this is something I want to implement into my own life, but for me personally, this is so eye-opening and so amazing, to use that word, that I want to share with other people. So I went in with the idea of like, I'm not just gonna like leverage this in my own financial life. I am going to figure out how to teach other people this as well, because I know what it did in 3 months of my life. Because it's just when you see it on paper and when you see what it can do, and the pressure that it relieves financially, you can't unsee it, and you know that it can help other people. So I think that was it. Is that it was just so simple for me to look at, for the simple numbers: $25,000 of debt over here that I owed to credit cards or whatnot. I had $25,000 that was coming in as an end of year bonus. These are the exact numbers. And I had two options, really, that I thought of: pay off all the debt, boom, I'm completely debt free, awesome, but that money is gone forever. And then my other option is put the money into my savings account, let it sit there, and slowly pay off the debt whenever I felt comfortable, but not be completely debt free. and probably pay more in interest over the years. But at least I had a little bit of savings over here for security or whatever. And that's really all I knew. I didn't know that there was another option where I could leverage my money while also creating all the other benefits that infinite banking and properly structured whole life can bring to your life, including the death benefit. So as I started learning about that, I couldn't unsee it, because what I ended up doing was paying off the debt completely. So the debt was gone. And then I got the bonus where I still had cash available to use. I had a death benefit now on my life, that if something were to happen to me, God forbid, my family was protected. So I was like, the more I learned about it, I was like, there's only pros. Like, there's really not many negatives other than just lack of understanding and poor management or stewardship. And I've got that hopefully mastered, because I'm willing to learn and get educated. So I was like, there's really no cons to this, in my opinion, especially if you're thinking long term. So my question was simple. It was like, why doesn't everybody do this? I was like, why doesn't everybody? And I went down the rabbit hole and asked that question in so many different ways. I could never find an answer. The answer was I mean, I couldn't find a legitimate answer, because the answer was always psychological. The answer was always lack of information, lack of trust, and it always fell into one of those two. People just don't know what they don't know, or they don't trust whoever the information is coming from, or they're lazy or whatever. And it came to all, but none of it was about the product itself. None of it was about the system itself. It was all about individuals and how they operate. And so to me, that was just gave me a huge confidence. And so that's what I did. I literally opened up my first policy. I implemented it the way that myself and Jeremiah designed it. And then, I leveraged it the way that we talked about. And then as I saw it functioning, I was like, okay, now what do I do with my next paychecks coming in? What do I do with this other lump sum coming in from a business or whatnot? And then I started understanding the idea of building out a banking system. And so now, fast forward, a couple years down the road, I've got 5 policies on my family, 2 on myself, one on my little, each my little boys have one. My wife has one. She'll probably get another one soon. My brother's got one. We're about to open one on my mom and my dad. And so we're creating a family banking system as fast and as quickly as possible, because once you see, in my opinion, one of the most efficient and effective ways to store your capital, why would you not do it? It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know any other way to describe it, where I want to pay myself first. And this is the only way that I've ever seen, and the most efficient way I've ever seen, to truly pay myself first and then pay everybody else.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind that the product of whole life insurance can bear the scrutiny of an honest investigator. I mean,
Yes.
it stood the test of time. It's been around longer than you and I have been alive combined, right?
Yep.
The process can bear scrutiny because banking has existed since people have been storing money and deploying money. And so, but the people at the end of the day, it's like, what about the person though?
Yep.
Okay,
I
I
had a
had a
question
question
about.
about.
So it's
So it's
neat to
neat to
me, of
me, of
course,
course,
that
that
you
you
wanted
wanted
to
to
immediately
immediately
start
start
bringing
bringing
this
this
message,
message,
this
this
insight
insight
that you
that you
had
had
to
to
your
your
people.
people.
I
I
love it.
love
I
it. I
had a
had a
question
question
around.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh,
Think about it. Take your time. Take your time and think about it, because I'm sure it was good.
No, yeah, I feel like I actually need to quit trying because it's when I quit trying to recall something that's when it actually comes back to
It comes
me.
back. Yep. It
Hmm.
comes back.
So you're a couple of years now into implementing the concept, but also of being a licensed agent professional in the space and teaching people about the concept as well. So share some of the nuggets maybe that you've collected along the way.
Got some cool stories of friends and family, and just people that I've shared the concept with as well. It's like there's just a lot of different things. I believe everybody's financial plan is different, but the number one tool, in my opinion, once again, is where your money goes first. But everybody's strategy can be different from that point on. Some people might have to pay off debt. Some people might want to invest. Some people might want to purchase a new home, a new vehicle. So I've got stories of all that. I've got a buddy of mine that, as he was learning about it, he was literally prepping to get married and buy a home, same as that position that I was in. And I told him, well, you know what I would have done differently? If I would have known, and if this was available, if this information was available, I would have not have put 30K down on my home. I would have put it into my policy first and then borrowed it from myself and created a large death benefit for myself because I needed insurance anyways. And so there's just so many different, and that's what he just, it made sense for him to do that. It made sense that for him to just, instead of putting the down payment on his home, we leveraged it through a policy verse. And now he's got a policy that's growing. He's got an infinite banking system that he manages properly. And he then took a loan, paid the down payment for his home, but he started his own system now. And now over time, as he leverages, as he deploys more capital into it, he's going to have more liquidity, more cash to do other things. Maybe it's down the road, another family. I wanted to purchase the family dream car for the family. You know, significantly big purchase. Well, so they did. They funded the policy properly, and basically instead of going to the bank and get a loan from the bank, they got a loan from themselves and purchase the vehicle through their policy, and it made sense for them. Now of course, like I said, every strategy is different. It's got to make sense for each individual, but what's cool is there's so much flexibility. And then you've got another same thing, my brother, I actually helped him because it was just like I just showed them. It's just a matter of educating people. My brother's route was like, hey, he makes good money, but he got himself in some normal debt, just like everybody does. A lot of people do, and he got to the point where he's like, you know what, I'm tired of carrying this debt. I make good money. Let me just pay it off. But then I told him, I was like, well, if you do pay it off, you know that money's gone forever. What if there's another way you could do it? Just like I did. So I showed him the strategy that I use. And then another family was like, hey, we've got this medical debt. And we've got, this money that just came in because we got a equity loan or whatnot. And, just so many different strategies, and there's better ways to deploy the money so you can leverage it in multiple places and it produces multiple results for you and your family before it just leaves. And so it's not necessarily rocket science. It's just a matter of a system being designed in the way that it allows you to do the things you want to do with your money. So a lot of cool stories, and that's just the beginning. There's some even bigger ones, but
I love it. So you actually did end up answering one of the questions that I was trying to recall earlier, but let me ask it again just in case there's something else that sticks out to you, which was, well, you told your buddy, hey, if I were you, knowing what I know now, I would have done my whole down payment thing differently. So is there anything else then along the way that you know now that you wish you would have known earlier?
yeah, I think the simplicity is that. I think for definitely any big purchases, why not? I mean, it might not make sense for everything, but as I think as you learn the system, and as if you're working with good coaches like we know, then I almost every big purchase makes sense. So I think now looking back, yes, we purchased a new vehicle for my wife as well. Now, given that that vehicle was at a really really good interest rate, then this is where people have to decide. This is where the psychology really comes in. It's like, hey, if I'm getting a 2% interest rate over here, does it really make sense to dump the money into my policy and then borrow for myself? And people start getting caught up in all these numbers. And then, like, that's fine. That conversation's okay. But this is where it's really important to understand the long-term psychology and the long-term compounding effect of your money. And so once people start getting to that level, then you understand that, like, hey, maybe it makes sense to put as much money as I can through this system first, and then operate from this system as it is as if it was my bank. And so I know now moving forward. Uh, just I think a couple of weeks ago, we bought a brand new refrigerator. And it's so cool because you can just get so creative and you can have so much fun with it. And it becomes this financial game that you can actually win now because you know the rules. And I always tell people it's not that the system is broken. It's just that we don't know the rules. We were never taught the rules, and the rules were not made for us. The rules were made for the banks. So unless you become your own bank, it's kind of hard. And so we just bought a refrigerator. $3,000 refrigerator. They're not cheap, at least the one that we bought. And it's something that my wife has been waiting on for us to buy, and we finally decided to pull the trigger when we bought it. What were my other options of buying that? Pay for it cash. 3K is gone forever out of our life. Our family never benefits from that 3K. We worked really hard to make it, and then it's gone forever. We got a big stainless steel box that keeps our food cold, but that's all we got. What if there was a better way? Put it on a credit card, and I receive all the credit card points and the whatnot, and maybe travel rewards. That's awesome. That would do it. But I still pay interest potentially, or maybe I get lucky and I'm at 0% and I don't pay any interest if I pay it back quickly. Not a big deal. The money's still gone. So in those two equations, money's still gone. In our equation, which I believe is the best of all worlds, we put it into our policy first. We borrow from ourselves. We still put it on a credit card. We still get all the points. We then take a loan from ourselves. We pay off the refrigerator. We kept all the points. The money's not gone forever because it was in our policy first. And now we pay ourselves back whenever we want, at whatever rate we want. And when we do, we have the refrigerator and then we have the money back into our policy or cash value to leverage and use again. That's a very simple example, but I don't know like how many more examples you need than that to be like, wait, okay, just run it by me one more time. Let me just run it by me one more time because like I think I get it, but I don't. And so that's the idea is that if you can help somebody understand the simplicity of making a purchase like that and somehow it benefiting you because we haven't even hit all the other benefits that the policy that's properly structured gives people. That, I mean, just alone the massive death benefit. We're guaranteed to pass away, people. That's the one thing we're guaranteed to do is pass away. So if every dollar that I put into my system increases my generational net worth over time, and it's going to get paid out to my family, then that is a no-brainer to me, especially if I can use the money. So yeah, that's what I will do from this point on that I would have done different if I would have known the information is any big purchase for sure. I would have leveraged it through our policy first, if
I love
possible.
it.
Yeah, sure. And Nelson actually uses appliances as one of the examples in the book. I mean, it's right there in the Becoming Your Own Baker book. And yet, it still seems to me to be such a hot button topic of in the infinite banking footprint online is should we only be using policy loans against our whole life insurance values for income producing activities or investments or cash flow per maybe, or that's my answer is maybe if that's what you decide. Or should we use, our policy loans, leveraging it against our cash values from our whole life policies for lifestyle things like this vacation that we're going to take for our anniversary coming up, or this refrigerator that we need to replace in the house, or and of course, at the end of the day, I say, well, if you're your own banker in either of those scenarios, both of those scenarios, great. But I don't know. It feels like to me like the appliance conversation, the car conversation, the vacation conversation, it's being diminished too much. And we're only talking about income producing activities while we're ignoring what it is that we're sitting in and driving in and pulling food out of every day as well. So I'm just saying, I love that topic. And I would even plant the seed, Sergio, that you should show back up at a round table episode where we field those types of conversations and go into the deep waters of people's thoughts and perspectives on topics like that. I'm just saying.
No, I would love that. I mean, to me, it's simple because it's like, man, if I can make my dollar do multiple things, meaning like, hey, if I get the points anyways, I'm gonna pay my credit card off anyways. I pay it back to zero every time. But then now I just got the travel reward points as well to travel and stuff. I'm like, okay, everybody's got to make the decision psychologically. What's everything worth long term? And so it's not a rocket science decision, but it is different for everybody because some people might value putting that money elsewhere because it brings a better return or something. And what I'm talking about is not an investment. We're talking about a storehouse, an asset where money just flows through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I'll leave it alone then. The temptation's there to keep going on that. But so you're a professional in this space. You're online. People can see you and hear from you. You've personally implemented the concept in your life. I love that you're about to be essentially built into 4 generations of your family tree. I say 4 because you're reaching up the family tree to the parents currently, but you've got something in place at your generation level, your boys level, which inherently means then that those grandkids that aren't here yet are already they're already going to be experiencing what it is that you've set up. So I love that. That's incredible. That's fantastic. Let me ask while we're here, so I'll remember, what is a great way for people to be able to reach out to you or where they could find you?
Yeah, yeah. So my social media platform that I prefer is Instagram, and I use 2 different channels. My personal channel is Surge Pro 11, so that's SERGPRO 11, and on that channel I post a lot of motivational lifestyle content that has to do with protect your legacy, but it falls within one of the 7 F's within our pillars. So one day for example, today I'm going to post a family post, and I'm going to talk about family and whatnot. So it'll be within that. And then on my protect.your.legacy, so it's protect your legacy with dots in between. That is my business channel on Instagram, and that one's more infinite banking related, specifically infinite banking. And I might go in-depth conversations about products, specifics, and whatnot. But on both channels, really, you'll start seeing more of just, hey, it's a lifestyle. Like what we've created now and what we're moving forward towards is protect your legacy as a lifestyle for us. So everything comes together. Whether you're on my personal channel or the business channel, you're going to see stuff that has to do with infinite banking, because it's such a big part of our life now, since it's radically changed the way we move and deploy and manage our finances. So that's where you can find me. I'm on YouTube as well. Also, Sergio, Protect Your Legacy on YouTube, and then I have links in my bio that will take you to free resources and things like that on my Instagram, YouTube, and business Instagram as well. So
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure to put all that contact information. You get that to me, I'll put it in the show notes below for sure. Um, is there anything that I haven't asked that you wish that I had of, or that you would for sure like to be able to tell anybody who is vetting the concept for themselves? Or maybe they've already implemented it and you feel like this would give them a leg up.
yeah, I mean, no, I think we've had an awesome conversation, and I think we've hit on a lot of the most important topics. I mean, I just like to keep things so simple. And I just tell people, like, if you've missed some, maybe you came into the back end of the conversation, maybe you missed the front, you've kind of been jumping around and you're listening to this part. Like, the most important thing is this: look, if there's a way to pay yourself first that benefits you generationally, that allows you to save your money, spend it, deploy it, protect it all at the same time, why wouldn't you do the little bit of work that's necessary to get educated to see if it's a good fit? And it's just that simple. There is a way. It's not if there is. I said if at first, but there is a way. There is a way where you can pay yourself first for generations, just like wealthy people have been doing for generations, just like banks leverage. You can play the same game. And so ultimately, it just comes back to the simple thing: the game is not broken. You just don't know the rules. So go learn the rules so that you can change your family legacy forever, because it doesn't take much to get the system operating and rolling properly that will benefit you forever. So, I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
I love it. Well, I see wisdom as being the application of knowledge, right? And I feel like, Sergio, that maybe even some of the things that you've read before or listened to, or that I've read and listened to before, gets solidified when we consider infinite banking. Because, say, take something like from Kiyosaki, who you've mentioned in this conversation, assets over liabilities, right? Anybody who's read behind him, that's going to be familiar language to them. Pay yourself first. Well, those are great pieces of knowledge. But how do we apply that? Where should we be paying our? That's the next natural question. And once we agree that, okay, yeah, I should be paying myself first. The workman is worthy of his hire. But where am I going to put it? Where is that storehouse going to be? Okay, and here comes infinite banking, and it gives us that tool, it gives us that principle, it gives us that philosophy, it gives us that process of, I can pay myself first. I can build up an asset and then use that asset for what it is that I'm going to be doing liability wise in my lifestyle. So yeah, it really makes some things click for me too. So it was really neat for me to hear your whole trajectory, your whole experience. People know where to find you. I'd love to ask you some rapid fire questions though here at the end of the conversation.
Let's do it.
Okay, all right. So tell me about a recent favorite book or podcast that you've been watching or listening to.
Ooh, recent favorite book or podcast. I have been learning a lot about 10x is easier than 2x by I'm so bad with authors because I literally have so many books, but it's 10x is easier than 2x. It's Dr. Hardy, I believe. Benjamin Hardy, I believe is his name. Properly, Dan Sullivan is another co-author of it, I believe. But the book is 2x is easier than 10x. Tons of YouTube content on it and tons of valuable information in the book as well. Love it.
Awesome. How about, what is one of the most interesting places you've ever visited?
Ooh, interesting places I've ever visited. My mind instantly went to, there's a place in the United States. I'll give you something in the United States that most people can potentially go visit. There's a place called Havasu Falls. It's a Indian reservation out near Arizona, and it's called Havasu Falls, Havasu Pie Village. It's got a series of, I want to say it's like 4 to 6 waterfalls. You can either hike in or helicopter in. It's very, well, it used to be very remote, meaning like it was like you had to like you could go, and you only the people that knew about it could go. Now it's very more mainstream, so you kind of have to apply to go there. But I recommend people look it up. It looks like another world, looks like Hawaii, another planet, but it's this most majestic canyon with waterfalls, with like turquoise water. It's absolutely probably one of my favorite places in the US.
I love it. Heard about it, seen pictures, haven't went yet myself. Even though I've been in the vicinity, so that's bothersome to me. But just another good reason to go back and
It's
go.
tough. It's tough nowadays. I mean, your boys would love it if you could potentially get there with the boys, even the whole family, and do the hike. It's absolutely amazing. But anyways, yeah.
We'd be rock climbing it. So tell me about one of the most impactful things that somebody has said to you.
Hmm. One of the most impactful things that somebody has said to me. I think it comes down to identity base, and it has to do with I don't know if it's just one. I don't know if it's, maybe I'll change it a little bit. I don't know that it's an impactful thing, but it's an impactful seed that that somebody planted in me. And for me, it was the seeds that my youth pastor passed the seeds that my youth pastor planted in me years ago. I still till this day give him credit for the man that I am today in a lot of ways without him even knowing. Just small little seeds that he planted along the way, things that he said, things that he did, um, that just shaped my identity and my confidence. My dad did an amazing job as well, but my youth pastor specifically, because that was his role, as my faith, has been that. So that's probably the most impactful things. It's probably a lot of things he said, but it's more so a combination of everything.
Okay, very cool. Sunrise, sunset.
That one's simple. Sunset. Sunset reason being is because if I just want to see the sunrise, I just record it and play it backwards.
I got you. I got you. All right, beach or mountains?
Ooh, both. If you can do both.
No, you can't do. Of course, you can't do both. Come on.
But you can. Now here I'll tell you why. I say both because I've had that question asked to me. I've thought about that question a lot. I've asked it to my wife, and we've come to the conclusion that you can do both. And one of the only places that I know that I want to do both at, that I think you can do both at, is in Lake Tahoe. So Lake Tahoe has what's more, well, correction, it's not beach, it's lake and
Body of
body of
water. I
water.
see what you're
Body of
doing.
water, body of water with beach. It's got a beach, so it's got sandy beaches, just no waves. So I think that's the difference. Oh, like ocean, lake, body of water, whatever. But we're doing Lake Tahoe.
All right. At least you gave me a specific location to justify. Um, sword or hammer?
Sword or hammer? I'm a sword guy.
There was one more I wanted to ask you, and before my final question, do you is there because you're a man of many skills and talents? Is there some skill, some hobby, some talent that you have that people might not know about?
Who that people might not know about? Um, I don't know. I mean, I've got my a lot of my friends are always like when I do stuff that they've never seen that. Oh, you. I didn't know you could do that, but it's like simple stuff. So it's nothing like super. It's just stuff they've never done, but it's not like super like wow. I don't know that I have a
But what's I mean, what even makes you think of that right there? Like some physical challenge, like is going to be on an Instagram
like
reel,
no,
or what do you
like
even
playing
mean?
playing pool. Like I'm a really good randomly. I'm good at playing pool. Like stuff like that. Like stuff. There's a lot of little things like that that I don't consider like wow, but I played pool a lot growing up, so I'm good at it no matter what.
That's fine. I've played enough to want to know how good you are, so that maybe the next time we get together, we got to figure out how to do that. Okay, no, I'll take that one. All right, and my last question, Sergio, I got this one from my boys at supper one evening. They asked such good questions. Would you rather be able to swim underwater, breathe underwater, okay, or fly?
Oof, man, I don't know. Well, I don't know what's in the bottom of the ocean, and I don't really care to know. what's in the bottom of the ocean. It's dark. I mean, maybe if I could see, because you said breathe underwater.
Yes.
You didn't say be able to see really good underwater. You said breathe. So I'm gonna go with fly.
Nobody's ever thought through that question enough with me to say that out loud. I don't
Yep,
think
I'm
so.
I'm gonna fly all day long. I don't care if I can breathe in the water and
At least you'll see the eagles in the mountains or whatever coming at you before they get you, right? Okay. I love the answer. Man, this has been a blast for me. I knew that it would be. I'm going to get your contact information below in the show notes where people can reach out to you. I am saying I'd love to have you come back for a follow-up conversation. Join us for a roundtable sometime. But I really appreciate you carving out the time. I've had a great time being with you, brother.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for your time as well. It's been a pleasure, and I'm just glad we got a chance to connect. Now I'll have to return the favor, and we'll have to have the reverse conversation soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was an absolute blessing. It was a great time, great conversation to be with Sergio, hear about his infinite banking background and everything else, really. So his contact information is going to be below in the show notes. My name's Jesse Durham. You can find me at durhamtalents.com. My hope is that you live and leave a lasting legacy.